Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show of the Last Goodbye Dash Book Heroes of America. I'm your host, Johnny Pizza Fratangelo, along with my executive producer, Fratangelo-Berardi, and along with our commentators and hosts, Ray Schnitzler and Ralph Narciso. And our special guest tonight is a Navy SEAL. Now, that's a guy who's been through a lot of stuff, let me tell you. His name is John Maher, and he's going to tell us all about himself, okay? And what it is to be a Navy SEAL and how hard it is to become a Navy SEAL. That's one of the top elite group this country has, and my hat's off to him. So, John, introduce yourself and give us a little background, and let's get going.
Sure. Thanks, John, for the invitation. And, it's an honor meeting a vet as yourself and one that is perpetuating, recovery and health amongst our veterans out there and so forth. My name is John Maher, Petty Officer Second Class, SEAL Team 2, Buds Class 156. I served mostly in the 80s and 90s, Panama Desert Storm. And then after I got out, about 10 years, I went on into a medical field, healthcare medical field. And I still am very closely connected with my community, the Navy SEAL Foundation. I'm an ambassador for them. And that's the basics.
What do you actually do for
that? Was you were in like 1990?
That's correct. Yeah, I was in the 90s during right after Grenada, Desert Storm, Panama. Those were the conflicts and the wars. Of course, Desert Storm was over so fast that I wouldn't even consider it a war compared to, what the guys are faced post 9/11. That's a different story. And stuff. But you were asking about training. Yeah. We get to train.
AIT.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
I missed.
You guys in the SEALs do a regular basic training and an AIT, then go to special forces, or do you join as Navy SEALs and take their training? Is it, you know what I mean?
It's a combination of both. There's multiple ways. When I came in, there were multiple ways to go into the teams. Unlike some of our other branches of service, special forces in particular comes to mind, Force Recon and Marines. You had to be an E5 or SF, Special Forces. You had to be in service, E5, good evaluations, then meet the physical requirements for special operations training. We have two ways to come in. You can come from the fleet by just taking a physical rating test, a PRT test. You qualify for it. You have good evals, decent academic scores, and you're going to get orders for BUDS. BUDS is the 6-month training, basic underwater demolition SEAL training that you see a lot of the programs. They've actually done a pretty good documentary on BUDS Class 234, showing you some of the training that we go through. That's one way. So coming from the fleet right in. I came in directly post-college, did not come in as an officer. I wanted to come in as an enlisted first, and then go Mustang officer after a few years, few deployments. So I came in directly from civilian job with Motorola and signed up for a 3-year stint, which was generally 6 years at that time. But I knew a kind of end around. If I came in service and then took the physical rating test week 5 of our boot camp, if you will, you could qualify for BUDS. So I only had to commit to 3 years versus 6 years, and then I'd be a SEAL in 2 years. Then I can go for a reenlistment bonus. So anyhow, as I found out, so from boot camp to an A school then, my A school was storekeeper, basically supply. Never did my job. Then right from storekeeper A school, which was about 2 months, directly to BUDS. So I was kind of that direct route. And as it turned out, I found many other college graduates came in that route to be enlisted, wanted to be a shooter for a number of years before, or even didn't want to even consider officer. That's a rare route. That's a rare breed. As it turned out, we have about between 20 and 30% of our community enlisted have their 2-year or 4-year degrees. Now that's unheard of, in the Army or Air Force. You're an officer. You have your 4-year degree. Generally, you're coming in as an officer, going direct. So you're dealing with a little bit more academically motivated individual. Even though we get the reputation of being very strong warriors and difficult training, I was really surprised to see how many of my then trainees and buds and later into the teams actually had their 2- and 4-year degrees.
Really?
So then after buds, that's like I said, our basic underwater demolition SEAL training. That's 6 months long of fun in the sun in Southern California, some toasty warm swims out in the Pacific and some long training to involve, basically our, SEAL stands for Sea, Air, Land, commissioned by President Kennedy in 1962. The sea is the water aspect of it, the diving, the rubber duck inserts, the ocean aspect, or not just ocean, but river or lake or stream, any water aspect.
Right.
The air, of course, is the parachute and, free fall. Some of you have been, I think you have been through jump training in Fort Benning. I got my wings and jump wings in Fort Benning. Now we teach it in-house, and eventually you're free fall parachuting. So that's the air, and the land is the land warfare. That's all the weapons, explosives, demolition, and stuff.
Right.
So our basic training is divided up amongst those 3 areas. And this is what makes us a little bit more unique is the water aspect. Some of the other services do have water, but nothing as intense as ours. And that's what I think really separates us, from other special operations and other sailor soldiers.
Right.
So John, so John, I'm reading about the invasion of Grenada here.
Sure.
I know you said you were SEAL Team 2.
Yes. Yeah.
So
at that point, I was actually still in buds and transitioned to 2.
Oh, okay. So there's a report. I had no idea that this happened. SEAL Team 6 was involved in a problem where they actually lost 4 SEALs at sea. Were you aware of that? Do you know anything about the background? You could give us some light on that.
Yeah, I can tell you what has been published out there. There's still some stuff classified, but basically that was one of the biggest losses, a single incursion loss that we, at that point, and I think it was 89, if you will, at that point that we had lost. And this was in the early stages of Captain Marchenko, Dick Marchenko, developing SEAL Team 6, our specialty team. They had a number of successes, and this unfortunately was one of the ones where we lost life. We on a parachute operation, 4 individuals laden down with weapons and gear and so forth. They had developed protocols for this type of thing, and they'd even done a couple practice jumps. But this is war. You're adding a couple hundred, so I guarantee the 60 gunner probably added 300 or 400, rounds. That's 7 pounds per 100 rounds. There's 20 pounds right there. I guarantee the radio men added another couple batteries. They were going in on what was going to be a very visible a rescue of the students, if you will. And you saw some of the makeover of that with, what was that Clint Eastwood movie?
Yeah.
There. But what happened was buoyancy. buoyancy tested. So when they went in and they hit fine. Little weather was moderate, nothing that we hadn't jumped in before. But they were overladen and they couldn't get their gear off. And 4 of the guys end up drowned. Literally, I mean, think about that. We're supposed to be the watermen,
Right.
and I can hold my breath for almost at that point 5 to 6 minutes,
Right.
And those guys too. So they were just laying down. And like most, our standard operating procedures, our SOPs, basically come from are based in blood. Somebody lost their life or near lost their life. And that's unfortunately how some of our SOPs come down. And later, we changed quite a few of our things on our jumps. And I was a jump master, and I knew the requirements for, were changed as a result of that.
Right.
And that's a lot of times that's the case in other branches of service too. Marines, Army, those SOPs come down because they're written in blood and sweat and blood. And
that's got to be a hard thing to do. First of all, how about how high off the water is the helicopter when they jump?
Well, that was let's say it's a couple stories on a helo jump, if you will. No more than 100 feet. 100 feet is a lot. And 100 feet, you're hitting that surface pretty hard.
Right.
And, not quite like land, but we can jump or rubber duck insert, if you will. 50, 75 feet is common. But that was, the wind updraft and then the weight just, probably knocked him unconscious temporarily.
That's what I would think. And were they posthumously honored in any way, given medals?
Oh, yeah. There were a number of awards given even then because they still, that gets into yes, there were some posthumous. But it's very similar to some of the extortion 17 mission comes to mind. Prior to the extortion 17 mission, that was one of the biggest losses we took. And then on the airfield in Panama, we took some losses there. And it's uncommon for us to have one here, 2 here, but 4 or 5 guys. No, that's very uncommon.
Because in popular culture, that's what you believe. You believe the SEALs, they're so elite, such an elite team of men and trained to the utmost that you would never even think they'd lose anyone, that they're prepared for any situation. But you putting light on this subject, tells our audience that it's not always that way, and that these men, they're men of valor that just give. Like we've said on this show many times, we talk about John, we talk about all the guests that we've had that just give of themselves. It's an incredible just thing to be next to think
I'd like to. It's interesting you bring that up because we don't really look at ourselves that way. We look at ourselves more in I like our ethos kind of puts it best, and I'll read you a short verse in there. It really sums it up good. In times of war and uncertainty, there is a special breed of warrior ready to answer our nation's call. A common man with uncommon desires to succeed. Forged by adversity, he stands alongside America's finest special operations forces to serve his country, the American people, and protect the way of life. I am that man. We look at ourselves as kind of common men that can do some uncommon things, some extraordinary things because of our training, which is why it's so important that we keep our training standards at the level that we do, because I know that teammate of mine next to me is trained at that level that I have been trained at. I can rely on him, and he knows he can rely on me. And
Right.
as a result, we have
Exactly.
lower mortality rates. We have a 1%. I remember when my mom, this is, we talk about family and community and I've looked at some of your podcasts and stuff. And, my mom was really concerned about me going into the teams and becoming a frogman, if you will. And when I found out this stat, I put her at ease. And that was, at that point, we had only lost 0.5% of all active duty SEALs were killed in action. And not one was ever left in the field. Not one. Now, there are very, very, very few units that could state that. And when I told her that, I said, Mom, think of that, 0.5%. If there's 100 guys out there, maybe one of us might, maybe. And she was like, well, why is that? I said, well, look at the training. The training that we go through, we have an 80, at that point, 75, 80% dropout. I know that it's no offense against those that didn't make it. They just didn't make the standards that we have set. And we as a community, military special operations community in particular, we have not compromised those standards. We're always undermanned. Always. When I came in, we were undermanned. We're still undermanned today. And there is a push by higher ups, to get more SEALs. We need more. Compromise, and the way you do that is you drop some of your standards, and that brings in more. And we refuse to do that.
John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank you, because you're beyond brave. And beyond brave is beyond brave, because you have to sometimes make that split-second decision. And people don't understand that, And so brave is too good for you. I think that you're beyond brave. You've made the sacrifices to make my life, America's life, and the world's life a better place to live.
Well, thank you,
my question to you is, what brought you to that point? Like, as a kid, did you always know that this is what you wanted to do, or this is what you wanted to be? And to give the younger people out there a perspective of the military that they can understand a little bit better.
Well, first of all, Ray, I like to say thank you for your support. When somebody thanks me for my service, I immediately respond back to them, thank you for your support, because without your support, I and my community couldn't have done what we do. So thank you for that. I had no intentions on being a frogman as a kid. Never even thought about the military. Matter of fact, I went to Clemson. I was a swimmer. When the Navy came through and the Army came through with their recruiters, I was like, not for me. But you know what? I'll take that aviator's test of yours and see if I qualify. And I did, but no intentions on military. My thinking, my intentions were, I want to graduate college. I'm going to go into business, technical sales business like Motorola or Honeywell, marry my sweetheart, have 3.2 kids, and do a full career, and then we travel. Okay. Now that's what was going on in the head. Now there's what really happens. you know? And I think each one of you may be able to go back into your history and say, well, I didn't plan on doing this. I thought I was going to do this, this, and this, but yet this is life. And my life actually, my decision to go into the teams was later. I was older. I was 28 when I did. My decision to go into the teams was based on, I could say I made the right decision, but maybe for the wrong reasons. I had a sister that was brutally murdered by a serial killer when I was in college. And some of that quiet rage and anger just wasn't sequelled by swimming and competition and school and work. And I fought my demons, and I still to this day fight my demons there. But through organizations like the Navy SEAL Foundation and other veterans organizations, through my church, which I'm active in our veterans ministry, if you will. This is how today I fight those demons. And many, not just special operations, but many veterans too, fight their own. For example, our suicide rate is just among veterans every day, 22 veterans commit suicide. So right. I'm just not one, and my community's not one to sit in my community too. I've lost a number of teammates, if you will, to suicide. And here are what you think, we're this, pinnacle of strength, but, we're human too. And we suffer from the same, maladies that humans do too, regular people. And, just because we can do these things and we kind of suppress that sometimes. Now, with that said, shortly after I got out, and this was in the mid 90s, the Navy SEAL Foundation formed. And the foundation was formed on a number of principles, but the main pillars of support were, from strength, that being building the operator, or the active duty or retired naval special warfare. Now, when I see, you guys, let me explain too. Naval special warfare community is made up of 3 different types of commands. Of course, everybody knows the SEALs and Frogmen. We're also made up of EOD, our bomb squad units, and we're also made up of our boat units. Used to be called special boat units, now are swift water combat craft units. Those 3 elements make up our community. And those 3 elements are all involved in the foundation and some of the things that the foundation has done. So the foundation is built on 5 different principles: strength, resilience, health, education, and community. And strength is just building up some of the special needs that we have in our community that the teams or the Navy doesn't supply. Resilience, just as it says, we take losses and we take hits. There are a special support group, if you will, that represents that and will help treat that. Now, one that I have been involved in is the health aspect. We're emphasizing this, not just physical health, but more importantly, mental health. And this goes back to our Vietnam vets that came back with, the adverse conditions that they came in from. Really, PTSD was not even defined. It was just battle fatigue then still, So mental wellness and mental health is addressed big time. And this is where later I became a doctor in sports medicine, if you will. But I've been very active in one of the prongs on that is our Medical Impact Forum, where we get we being Naval Special Warfare, we get experts in medicine, brain surgery, psychologists, psychiatrists, chiropractic physicians, MDs, all different healthcare branches. We get together once a year and discuss the different treatments for the topic. Last year was PTSD and pain. So we kind of try and dispel all that witchcraft, that you're healed crap, if you will, and bring out the true evidence-based, clinically backed therapies for PTSD and pain. And we have top neurologists, neuroscientists, and we get together each year and discuss what are some hands-on therapies and treatments that we can bring to either active duty SEALs and Frogmen, or vets like me that have been out for a while. Maybe that TBI has developed over a decade or 2 decades, whereas it wasn't as pronounced when you were in. So through the foundation, we raise funds basically for those 5 pillars. And there have been some remarkable therapies that have come out with respect to treating PTSD in particular that I was just unaware of. And so this continued, support of not just our active duty guys, but those guys we don't forget. We don't leave them behind. And the scholarships through the education fund and so forth. So I'm very, very active in that, if you will.
So as Navy SEALs go, would you say
That's good
that
for you? That's great, John. That's great.
would you say as a group there is more a higher percentage of Navy SEALs experiencing PTSD than the general population of military personnel?
No, actually less.
Oh, okay.
Actually less. And some of it is due to the therapies and treatment that the guys now seek. And it preempts some of it. But there are, as you would think, there are some severe cases. But the figures show, and I can't remember exactly, but I remembered the forum. We're below the national average with respect to PTSD. And some of them is because of the therapy.
You have a. Wait, I want to ask him something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
No,
Right.
what I was gonna ask John is, do you think of that was lack of service in the past, and that does that bring hope for the future?
Ray, I'm not. What do you mean lack of service?
Like to me, and that's just me personally. One is too many. We need. That's what America needs to do, to take care of you guys, to give you everything that you guys are entitled for because of the service that you gave to this country. So, in my eyes, right, one American soldier is too many. We need to fix this problem, and make services more available for you guys. That was just what my comment was.
I can speak more for the special warfare community because it's my community and it's the one I'm still in touch with. I can't speak for the general veteran population, although I know quite a bit on medical statistics and medical situations and physical and mental, psychological situations. But I can speak more directly to special operations in particular, and not just Navy, because since I've been out, this forum that I was telling you, the Impact Forum, and you can Google that, the Naval Special Warfare Foundation Impact Forum, if you will. Every year we have it and the topics come up. But I can speak to that. And what we had in the past, what we didn't have in the past that we have today now, is the huge financial support from the Navy SEAL Foundation, which has been developed only because guys like me and more substantial individuals like me, not just SEALs, but patrons and patriots, have stepped up to make this more aware and say, you know what, Navy or military, if you're not going to take care of your guys, we will step up and take care of them. Here's a good example. 2004, the SEAL Foundation was still in its infancy. 2 of my teammates in Tampa Bay were just sitting around at a marina night club, if you will, having a couple beers. And one of them was outraged that a teammate coming back from Afghanistan wasn't getting some extra treatment that he needed, in particular, just chiropractic adjustments. He wasn't getting it. And the Navy and Special Operations was refusing him. So Rory said, you know what? Screw them. If they're not going to take care of us, then we'll take care of our own. And Kurt sat there and said, well, what do you suggest? And they're sitting there looking at Tampa Bay and said, let's do a fundraiser. What do you want to do? We're going to swim from that side of the bay to this side of the bay. Okay, well, when do you want to do it? Well, let's pick January. That's the worst month of the year, represents the conditions we would swim in, miserable, nasty conditions. So they threw up a website real quick and said, if you're looking, Tampa Bay Frogman Swim, first annual Tampa Bay Frogman Swim. If you're looking for a nice, warm weather, sunny Florida swim, this is not the swim for you. We're raising money, such and such needs extra support. 30 guys showed up. They raised $30,000 in one weekend. That was,
that's beautiful.
And
nice to hear stories like that.
Yeah. So it's through that and other physical kind of fundraisers like that. Evening tributes. New York City has an evening tribute that they do. And we get presidents, and President Bush spoke at that one. Panetta was at another one. We get dignitaries, and Clint Eastwood was to the LA tribute early on. So when you get this kind of awareness, and the biggest thing too is our foundation is what all these 501(c)(3)s are evaluated. How do you evaluate? How do you know a charity is a good charity and most of the money's going? Well, Charity Navigator is a unbiased, independent evaluator. They rank 501(c)(3)s, and they rank them on a star system. And the highest star system is 4 stars. And within the 4 stars, which we have been for over 15 years, we contribute 93 cents on the dollar that you donate or the public donates to that goes directly to the recipients of those pillars of support I was telling you, scholarships, extra therapy. Say a family member can't attend a funeral for their loved one that was killed in special operations, or like I said, scholarships or community events. We have a number of community events like the evenings, the Los Angeles evening tribute to Naval Special Warfare, the New York evening. This is what brings awareness to it, brings the money, and then we direct the money straight back to the guys. So I don't get paid for anything on that. I do that. I've done that swim, 10 times at least, and I raise funds. I commit to raising funds for it, But that's part of some of the therapy for me too. It really is. And John, I think you and I discussed it at length, some doing these charity events. And for us as SEALs and frogmen, the way I honor my dead is to have some, absurdly disgusting, painful event, that ends in some kind of gathering or festivity at the end of it. And that's one of the ways we pay tribute. Plus, it brings me closer to my other teammates in the community that are out there, maybe or may not be suffering from some things, but that camaraderie, that community, that sense of, leave no man behind, doesn't just happen in the military. We carry it over into our lives and our civilian lives and our families' lives and stuff. And there's a big part of the therapy that comes down with it. And, so.
Well,
John, you said you had a question.
Elaborate on your.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I want to say something about what Ray's question. I want to say something about what Ray was asking you, his question. It's starting to sprout up all over the country now. Like you got Tunnels to Tower, Wounded Warriors. like my group, the Military Order Purple Heart, we don't take $1. Everything goes to help these veterans. So, and like John's community. So that's only a small part of it, what's really happening throughout the whole country that we really don't even know about, okay? But it's happening, and the veterans are starting to get more attention and being taken care of, like you said, not necessarily from the government, okay? Because I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for that, you know? It's guys like John, okay, who take their initiative on their own to do it because it's going to get done. But the other way, if you go to the political way, you got to go through all kinds of red tape, and it's not going to get done. The guy's going to be dead by the time you try to help him do somebody's help.
You know, we need to address it.
Something,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you something, John, for the women that are listening. Okay, being a Navy SEAL, you think men. Okay, now remember the movie with Demi Moore, G.I. Jane? I don't know if you saw that movie.
Yeah.
But she goes through a SEAL training program. Okay, and she endures it as far as, you know, when they ring the bell. If you're not going to go, you're going to ring the bell. But do you notice if there's more women trying to become a Navy SEAL?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we were one of the last communities to open the doors to that. Now they have to meet the prerequisites and the qualifications just as any man does, if you will. And there have been a couple that have gone, attempted buds, if you will. They were unsuccessful in completing buds, but they have started it. And somewhere along the line, they ring out. But think about, 8 out of 10 people quit that program anyways. So whatever woman comes in there, she's already got 80% chance that she is not going to make it through, just like us. Now, with that said, I would be naive and you would be naive, and I don't think the listeners would believe us if I told you, oh, it's all going to be the same standard. Technically, it's going to be the same standard, that I went under that they did. But come on, there's going to be some biasism, some unspoken questions. Some instructors are just they're going to be old school about it. But you know what? That's not really. Here's the issue that most of us, when I say us, I say teammates of mine. Most teammates, I know a number of women that could make it through that program. Okay, a number of them that could. But that's not the issue. The issue is as simple as if it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay. We have a high, very high rate of achievement on our missions. And there is because for the reasons that I explained, our training and so forth. If it's not broke, don't fix it. What is working, it's when it's stopped, when it's broke. That's when you need to fix it. Do we need to bring women in? I personally think it'd be a very good idea, and many in my community do. But here is the informal behind the scenes thing on it from an operator. Okay. Let's say, and I was a shooter, frogman, shooter. We call him operative, kicking in doors, rescues and stuff, if you will. Say I was in a 4-man element, stacked on a door to breach a door, just like you've seen in a number of, the movies out there and stuff. Let's say she was a SEAL too. She was number one. She's the first one going through that door. Okay. She goes through, hey, takes a round. I know my instinctive male shepherd protective, right, whatever you call it, is going to be to almost want to grab her, but I can't do that. I have to, if that was a male, I'm one arm pushing him out of the way, engaging that target. I might take that split second just to respond to her. Now I'm down. Now 2 of us are down. Right. That means number 3 man has to cover number 4 man. So you see, it's not really a problem with the women. It's really a problem with us. We have to come to terms with changing the mentality to not want to respond like that. And that's where I think some of the biasism would come into it. And I would have a hard time, with that. That would be the scenario that I would, and now you've just changed the whole dynamics of the team. You lose the operational performance and achievement of that. It's not because of, well, a woman has certain medical, physical needs in the field, being that menstruation period. No, it's not that. It's not the weakness. No, I know some tough women. Okay. I know some Ironman triathletes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some CrossFit performers. Incredible. It's really us. But I again say, I throw that question back to you. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Why are we fixing this?
Right.
Now we may very well we have units that are mixed with SEALs and EOD and women in there for intel and language community, and they're shooters. If there's a firefight, they're going to be shooting. We have units like that already. And this is what eventually there's going to be a female, SEAL. There's going to be, she's maybe in buds right now. I don't know. But that first one is, she's going to have to be pretty special to get by, I won't say, I think we're pretty sharp in being unbiased in our training, especially. You can't be biased. We can't. I like this guy. I want to see him make it into the teams. He'd be great. But if he doesn't pass that swim, he doesn't pass that obstacle course, he doesn't pass that breath hold. Hey, I don't care how much I like him or dislike him. Maybe I dislike him, but yet he is performing. Okay. I got to put those emotions in that aside. And this is where I think
I have to agree. I agree with you 100% because I said this on the show quite a ways back that if there was women in the military, which there are now, okay, at my time there wasn't any, okay, and if there were, I would have that, like you said, that male protective instinct, okay,
right?
I'd be worrying about that girl or woman, right? And I wouldn't be concentrating more on what I'm supposed to be doing. I'd be worried about her if she's
and
okay,
see, that's me. That's on
danger.
me rather than her.
But I think, but I think what you're but I think what you both are saying is, it's because of your generational instincts that are not as strong. Right, upbringing is one of it, but also generational things like younger men today don't have a lot of that same male protectiveness or male I don't want to call it superiority, but more like looking down at women, that women are less than them or are weaker and stuff. A lot of guys that are younger now, I've that I speak to, young guys, don't think the same way. They'll a woman is just as equal to them. They think that way. So maybe that's what needs to be changed is as these younger guys get more involved with women, working with them together, maybe then it will change.
Now, and I agree with you. It is a generational thing, but I was raised by a single mother. Okay. She was a strong woman, and I understand. That's where I get my sense of more openness towards bringing them into the teams. But I still that's my psychological kind of hang up that I would have. And I think you're right. It is a generational thing. Of course, World War II, oh my God, Vietnam might have changed a little bit. My generation in Desert Storm, we were already thinking, hey, women are going to be coming in through buds here soon, and now we're in 2020 and we have had a couple come through and stuff. So is, you're right. And it is it will be an ever changing thing that I think we will be addressing.
So you're talking about Desert Storm. There's one of our listeners asked if you could talk about a heroic event or any time that your life was in danger.
Well, Desert Storm happened so quick. Most of what I was doing during Desert Storm was called VBSS, Visit Board Search and Seizure. We did do some diversionary stuff, but it was over so fast that that I felt there were more events in training where I was more in danger of losing my life than I was in Desert Storm. Honestly, we trained so hard and so aggressively, if you will, that in my time frame, Desert Storm was kind of the biggest thing in Panama that happened. At that point, we had lost more team guys in training than we had lost in combat. Now that changed after 9/11. The guys coming in after 9/11. So yeah, there were rounds going off, but and most of what we did was recovery stuff, and we thought we were going to be in more, more in harm's way, if you will, but not really. And some of the team guys in my time frame, my era, did their whole careers without one round going over their head, without ever being in that, did their whole careers, because that just was the nature of peacetime then,
And nothing in Grenada, though?
No, I was not involved with Grenada,
Okay.
if you will. No. And actually in Panama, I dislocated my knee, and my platoon went on to go do some of they took down the boat, Noriega's boat, President Noriega, who we were going in after, if you will. But yeah, I was laid up with a dislocated knee and an injury, And then Desert Storm, we came in the middle of it, and it was almost, it only lasted 3 or 4 weeks anyways, the main conflict, if you will.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
Ralph, you remember George Odell?
Yeah.
Ralph, you remember George Odell? Okay.
Yes.
When Desert Storm was taking place, we were listening to it, watching it on TV and everything like that. And like you said, it only lasted a few weeks, whatever. And it was bothering me. And I even said it was bothering me that they got so much praise. Okay.
Right.
Don't forget, this is shortly after the Vietnam thing. And I went to work one day, and I saw George, because George was a Vietnam vet too. And I said, George, have you been watching? He said, yeah. He says, does that bother you that they're giving so much praise, and these guys hardly seen any action? And here we're in Vietnam for 10 years and lost over 58,000. He said, John, he says, that bothered the heck out of me, man. I don't know. I don't know the point I'm trying to bring out, but I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying.
That I follow what you're saying too. I follow from the other end of what you're saying too, because, and it goes back to what you said, Ralph. You think it was a generational thing. In the Vietnam era, my uncle's generation, 50, 60,000 people loss was not acceptable, but it was understandable. You imagine 58,000 today? Or how about just the Afghanistan or Iran war? What, 6,000, 8,000? Every life is valuable. But 6,000 or 8,000 on Iran and Afghanistan, that's what? Under 20. But 58,000? United States, this community would not accept it. Would not. I think they would rise up like they did during the Vietnam era and say unacceptable, and you would see war broke out. But what that goes to show you, though, is the level. One thing our military, I think, does good is we learn from our lessons. We learn from our losses. We learn from blood. And we do that well. And a good example of that is look how smooth. I mean, really, a textbook war is Desert Storm. Okay. Textbook. Minimal loss for the gains that we made. We still have losses, and they're, but this is war, and you're going to lose men and women in war. Yeah. And, but textbook,
Well, yeah. So. And it's not, I'm not a veteran, I never served. I never served in combat like either of you. But what I see as an observer is we went from, if you go back to the beginning of warfare, where men just threw themselves against each other and beat each other to death, until one was standing and one wasn't. We've gone from that. We've gone all the way through the Revolutionary War to World War II, and every step as we go through warfare, it becomes less and less of a man-on-man type thing, and more of now we have drones, we have automated weaponry that we never had before. So that, I think, contributes to the lessening of loss of life.
Technology, and
Right.
in one word, technological advances, and we can note those from medieval times all the way to current day. Each phase of that developed new technologies, and as a result, some of those increased the loss of life. Look at the trenches in World War One. Look at the picket lines in the Civil War. But then you look at the loss of life in Desert Storm. Using the deception, the art of war, Sun Tzu, the Fugazi that we Colin Powell and Schwarzkopf, that was the ultimate textbook Fugazi. They didn't know whether we coming over via the Navy and Marines over the beach, or we coming via the Army over the desert. Right. And we timed that perfect. Now, that's kind of some of the stuff we did, my platoon did in those diversionary ops in the beach in Kuwait City and so forth. And some of my other teams that were there too, we were just to create havoc and miscommunication and let them think we're coming over the beaches, along with Marine, Recon, et cetera, et cetera. And then the same thing in the desert with, our tank units and infantry, just create havoc. What are we going to do? Which way are we coming from? Because we've known from history, you cannot fight a two-front war. And, Hitler realized that and at expense, so when we were able to convince them, we're coming over the beach, the Marines and the Navy's coming over the beach into, Kuwait City, that drew the forces from the desert, from Saudi Kuwait border. And you can't move a unit like, you can't turn around and just say, turn around and about face and head back to, Saudi. When that movement happens and they get committed to coming to the beach, which they did, that's when we blitzkrieg kind of across the desert. And what a phenomenal, it was just textbook, now. We thought, when I say we, Naval Special Warfare, we really thought we were going to be in that environment for a long time. I was planning on going over there, not for a 6-month cruise, but probably getting land-based, and we would be there years. This was where we thought, okay, we are now going after not just Saddam Hussein, but some of the terrorist units too, if you will. And we're not turning around and coming back. Of course, we were wrong, and President Bush chose not to go into Iraq for the reasons that we know. And of course, it took an event like 9/11, and we know what's happened since there.
Do any of like current you're involved with the SEAL Foundation, like you said before, do any of the current SEALs who actually are being deployed now come and speak? And I'm thinking specifically about the famous SEAL Team 6 who went in and got what's his name?
Bin
Laden, right? Bin Laden. Yeah. Anyone like that ever come to speak, like at any events or?
Well, we will have a number of active. Let me first say from my experience, my direct experience, we have had active team guys. I do a couple of events: the Tampa Bay Frogmen swim, the New York City Hudson, the SEAL Hudson River, New York City swim. where we go from the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, over to the Freedom Tower, and if you will, and also Boston Frogman Swim. And there we will have primarily, we'll bring in somebody like in Boston, 94-year-old NCDU, Naval Combat Demolition Unit. They were the predecessor. They were our first frogmen, if you will. 94-year-old Connecticut governor, attorney general, he came and spoke at our thing. So, and then we've had, even more recent active duty guys like Admiral McCraven, if you will. He was the commanding officer of JSOC. That he basically was the leading element of taking down bin Laden, if you will. He has spoken at a number of engagements, one of which was a commencement that is infamous in our community, the Make Your Bed, the University of Texas commencement, and stuff. And Dick Marchenko, founder of SEAL Team 6 and Red Cell, he did a number of speaking engagements. More recently, one of the members of the bin Laden takedown and enlisted, I'm not going to say his name, he has been doing open mic. Well, he's being paid for it, okay? But he has done a number. So it's a mixed, very, very mixed. The rule of thumb in my time frame was you're active duty. I didn't even tell family knew I was a frogman. Friends, I was Navy.
Right.
When I was active duty, it was mouth shut, and stuff. And that's changed a little bit. Okay, generations changed, but it's mixed on coming out and talking about, operation, especially operational stuff. We will not. That's a big no-no, and we have signed disclosure agreements to not talk about that for the rest of our lives, because it puts my current, if I go out and talk about some tactics that we did and they're still using now, bet that, a wise enemy is going to be researching you and your SOPs and mode of operandi. And so they're going to be listening to that. They can defend against that. And that's a big no-no, So any of the guys that have put out books, including Admiral McCraven and stuff, they have Naval Special Warfare screen those books to make sure that there's no, nothing operational or crossing the line there. Very particular about that. But so it's kind of a 50-50. Usually when you're active duty and you're still in service, no, we don't talk about it. You don't go out and you don't make speeches and et cetera and stuff. After you get out, if it's not crossing an operational line, then you know what? I don't have any problem with a teammate of mine, making some extra dollars, talking about his experience, I don't do that. And many of us don't. We don't take, or if I did, I would recommend that donation go to the SEAL Foundation. I would prefer that my speaking engagement money would go there, if you will. But no. So, and it's a sticky subject, a real sticky subject. And some of us take it really personal. Really personal, so. Did that answer? I think that answered you.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's just, absorbing everything that John was saying, and it makes sense. People want to know, but sometimes it's better that they don't know, because, that gives them the edge over the good guys all the time. So, you guys know that little edge could be game changer. So I'm really absorbed what John just said. That's a good thing that you feel like that. And I think I know myself, when I left the city, for my job, I had to sign some papers. So, you know, it kind of like it's good and it's bad, but it's a good in a positive way for the safety of the people. But I also think it's bad because people really want to know what's going on out there. So there's two sides to this.
Mhm.
And you know what, too? There's also another factor in here. Even though I didn't have a lot of combat during my time frame, and my generation didn't, the operational things, the training that we did, we made changes to what our Vietnam vets did that then
Right.
laid the groundwork for what my teammates did in post 9/11. And that changed. And then post 9/11, Frogman and teammates of mine laid the groundwork for the next generation that's coming in. The one thing we can say is we plan for things, but things
Right.
don't go as planned, and they will change.
Mhm.
We're good at adapting to that, and we're good at changing that. And stuff that I was doing is now considered obsolete. So I'll
Right,
talk about that.
No, but
Mhm.
John, what I mean is that, you know, I think that your side of the story should be told. You know, regardless of what they make you sign or what your agreement is.
And
You
I can
know,
do that. I can do that. I could write a book, and a number of us I have. You know, the wise ones of us, we let the command, we let Spec War screen our books, and if they think something's inappropriate in there, we'll pull it in a heartbeat. You know, there are a few that haven't, and they're the ones that get the criticism from us through their teammates, and they've crossed the line. We're going to take care of our own, kind of.
well, that's what I'm saying. I have the foremost respect for you. That you know what you're doing is the right way of doing things. You know, there's a right way and a wrong way. Same thing with pizza. You know, the man gave everything. You know, and why shouldn't his story be told? You know, same thing with you. You know, your story should be told, and people want to hear what you went through. People want to hear what pizza went through. You know, and that's the beauty about America, you know, that we can talk about certain things within certain limits.
Yeah, it's a good thing. You know, the open conversation today in these kind of podcasts are our access to digital, information is superior to what it was when, when I was younger and in service. And, an open society, opens this information up. Now, with
Right.
that said, there's also times that we need to keep things quiet too.
Absolutely.
So, there's that too, and you just have to trust that the oversight groups in power, they keep them in check and let us do what we need to do without all the questioning, but yet keep us in check. The check and balances of our democracy is the key thing. John, I was actually wanted to shift gear a little bit here and talk about some of the therapies that you did with respect to dealing with issues that you had coming back from, combat then and now today, what you do today and how that's changed, because I know it's changed. Did you follow that?
You know, like I said, yeah. Like I said, when I was very disciplined as a young boy for all my hobbies that I had, between baseball, playing the drums, okay, and being a bodybuilder. So I was very disciplined and able to, and I was a a lot of my life was a loner. You know, I had a lot of friends and all that stuff, but I stayed to myself, you know, and I was always very dedicated to what I was doing. No matter where I was, a certain time of the day came, I left, even if I was at a party. Okay, so my mind was really disciplined. Okay, and I got married while I was in basic training. So I was 19 when I got married. Okay, I went to an all boys high school. Okay, so that kind of steers you in such a direction. Okay, because you're with men all the time. You know what I mean? You know, and not that I was, you know, homosexual. Not looking at it like that, but being around boys all the time, you're talking about weightlifting, you're talking about baseball, you're talking about all these other things, and that disciplined my mind so much that when I got like I said, I got married at 19, and prior to going to Vietnam, so that was on my mind all the time. I was in Vietnam, and I had a friend. I'm always loyal to a friend. Okay, I put my friends first, no matter what. Okay, so I had in AIT, I met a guy named Eddie, and who had a couple of problems. I say it about in my book. And he had a couple of problems, and I promised his sister before I went that I would look after Eddie. I would take care of him. Luckily, we ended up being together. He was even became my ammo bearer, and he had this condition, and that he almost like not epileptic, but similar. He would have these seizures, right? So I took upon myself to worry about him, and even when in Vietnam, he was deathly afraid of water because he almost drowned when he was a kid. I'd have to even take his hand to come to a puddle of water, never mind a river, you know. So he ends up having a seizure and gets out of the field, and he leaves and he stays back. So he got a good job. But I continue this, and I always looking after my friend. So my mind was always focused on other things, you know. And then when I got out, and when I was wounded, even when I was pretty seriously wounded. I bled out, but I knew I wasn't going to die. You know, I never lost consciousness, but like I said, I lost all my blood, and I never had that fear of dying. I really didn't. And after I left, and it was all the hospital stays, like 5 months in different hospitals. I got out, and when I came home on a medevac, and I didn't deal with the Vietnam people, you know, the country going against the Vietnam War. I didn't deal with that because it was 1967. Okay. And I came back on a medevac, so I wasn't let out into the population like these guys at the airports came back, got spit on and all that stuff. So I stayed another 5 months in States, in St. Albans, Queens, in the hospital, healing. And meanwhile, the baby was born while I was still in the service. So I was constantly dealing with things that had to be done, that I had to take control of. And take control of my life, and to take care of my wife at the time, and my baby, you know. And then I went to work, and ever since then I've worked, and so I never really thought I had the PTSD. My wife Judy says I do, but I still don't think I do, you know. But so the way my life went, I just, in other words, it's almost like I didn't have time to have PTSD because I was constantly working day and night.
You didn't have time to reflect on it. You were not.
Ralph, you know, you saw what I did at GM. I was constantly on the move.
Oh yeah.
And
well, that's who you are too. That's who you are, John. Well, I know you well. Yeah, that's who you are. See, that's what it is. A lot of people don't have that ability to occupy their time. Those thoughts that cause trauma for them, and those actions and scenes that they've seen constantly invade their mind, you know, and that's what brings them to therapy. They need it. They need to talk about it.
You kind of shut it down. You were so busy, you just had to shut it in that closet, and
but not only that. I mean, I never smoked. Yeah, I never smoked. Okay, and I never really drank a lot. You know, I have a little drink. Like right now, I'm sipping tea with a little Zambuca in it. Okay, but I never. I mean, if I could be in a car when we were playing gigs, I could be in the car with the band, and they're all smoking pot, and I didn't smoke it, and I would nobody could entice me to do anything that I didn't want to do. You know, and it was, hey, John, take a drag. No, I don't want it. Just plain English. Drink. No, that's it. I'm done. You know, so that's the way I was disciplined all my life, and I kind of take pride in that. I really.
When
do.
did it really come to a head?
I can't let
John?
anybody.
When did you really start to seek some therapy? When did you really start to seek some therapy?
I didn't really seek therapy, but the thing is, I had a case, you know, for the VA, you know. So I said, well, I better go to the group sessions to help my case, you know, as far as PTSD and all that kind of stuff. So which I did. And the first we had.
And how soon from, were you still in service, active duty?
Oh, no. This was back, I'd say it started about 2000.
Okay, so
all those years.
After your active service.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, and basically it was you know, in plain English, because I don't pull no punches. It was to help my case, to get my veterans,
Sure.
You know,
You're not alone in that.
So
okay, you're not alone in that thinking.
No, I know a lot of guys. Right. So we were like the first time I went to the group. There's like anywhere between 13 and 20 guys at a session, all Vietnam veterans. Okay, and I'm sitting down there and I'm listening to all this stuff, and they're talking about this guy's playing golf, this guy just had a grandkid, or this guy saw a movie last night. And I said, don't you guys talk about Vietnam? He said, no. I said, why not? And we don't want to. We don't like to. You got to be kidding me. I said, what are we here for? You know, we talk about a golf game, you know? So to make a long story short, I started having Christmas parties, you know, and I invited everybody to the house for Christmas, you know, the wives and everything. So we all got together. And it changed them because they were always like, all right, we're getting out. No interactions. You follow what I'm saying? And even the you know, what do you call them? Husband and wife, at the Christmas party, they said, John,
therapist, psychologist, therapist.
Right. What you're doing here is great. You know, so I had the Christmas party for like God, I must have had it for like 10 years in a row till it started phasing out, you know. And but we're all close friends now. You know, it's not like, yeah, you go your way, I go my way. Now it's all.
But here's my point that I'm trying to make. It appears that a lot of your generation, when they get out, had not addressed any of the mental or psychological issues while they were in, much less when they got out. And if they did, it might have been a decade or two later. You know,
right.
From like your point of when you got out to when you were doing the Christmas parties and you were doing, it was kind of group therapy is what it is, if you will.
Right.
But that was a decade or two later. Okay. This is the gap.
Yes, 3 decades.
That we are trying to change. Well, we are changing. And if the Navy and our military doctors don't address it, we in Naval Special War, the SEAL Foundation, we are going to address it. We are going to find those evidence-based, clinically backed therapies that work and dispel the hocus pocus ones that don't. And the guys are doing either while they're in. We're trying to promote it while they're in still, even if they're not covered by by the Navy, our Navy doctors. We have our own doctors. We have basically our own clinic, high-end professional sport medical clinic to include psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, physical therapy, chiropractic physicians, MDs, sports medical MDs, surgeons, et cetera, et cetera. We have our own special community. But if they don't cover it, you know what? We're going to cover it on the other end with the foundation.
Well,
and we're
doing
the
important thing, but the important thing that what you're doing is, like you're just saying now, you're going to catch it at the beginning. Right. You're going to nip it in the bud. Okay.
That's right.
See, the Vietnam was different. These guys didn't want to talk about anything. A lot of them still don't want to talk to anybody. You got to get these guys to start talking.
Trust me, there's a lot of guys
today. That's the beginning of the healing process.
There's a lot of guys today still don't want to talk about it.
Pizza.
Exactly.
John,
Exactly.
Like here's again, I can only speak for myself. You know, when I took a number of injuries that didn't record medically. And my master chief pulled me aside when I was getting ready to get out, and he was saying, okay, now you're going to tell him about that knee dislocation and, you know, in Salt Lake. You're going to tell him about that head injury on the thing. You're going to tell the docs all the ones that you didn't tell them or didn't go to get formal treatment for or went to get treatment for outside of the medical. See, when I was in, we didn't have things accessed like acupuncture or chiropractic physicians or even massage therapists and stuff. I paid for that on my own dime because I knew it was effective and I know I'd get effective therapy. And many of us do get our own nutritionists and our own, you know, or nutritional advice or adjustments or, you know, even just massage, true massage therapy, not the, you know, the Subic Bay rub and tugs. Okay. Real massage therapy and stuff. We do that. And now that's some of the stuff that we provide teammates, you know, and other therapy too. Like for instance, you know, I always was under the impression that PTSD, the main therapy that the military had shown was kind of a drug, psychiatric drug / talk therapy. Okay. I thought that was the most effective therapy for it. Well, not so. What is the most effective therapy for PTSD clinically shown is a cognitive therapy, talk type therapy called prolonged evaluation. And through a series of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of finding a starting point to that traumatic event that happened in your life. And I'm giving you the nutshell, the unabridged, you know, the abridged version of it. Basically that starting point to that traumatic event that really affects them, because it's usually one or two events that really affect the PTSD. And that can be a non-military person too. But you identify that starting point, and then you identify, and that might be 3 days before a battle. Okay. I was writing my letter home or something. Then you identify the ending point to it. And that might be the day after, it might be the end of the battle, might be weeks later. Okay. Now you've got the starting and ending point for this event. And then you actually go in and the therapist just sits you down and he's usually developed a rapport with you already and says, okay, we're going to record this on your phone. I'll record it if you want on mine and you can use it, but your phone. And then when we're done with it, and you just talk about what you think happened between that starting point and ending point. And then I want you to take it home and listen to it 8 or 10 hours when you're eating later. And what they found was through a series of 6, 8, 10, 12 visits, it's no set. They would start out maybe 5 minutes just conversing that and listen to it. Then the next day they go back in and do it again. Now it might be 15 minutes that they talk and they listen to it at home. And then the next day, well, through the events, it could be hours that they talk about. And through that one-on-one trust communication and that therapy, like 50, 60% more effective than the psycho drugs, the psycholytics and the psychiatric drugs in talk therapy. Just that over like a 10, 12, 14-day period. Remarkable. I saw a session that one of Spec War individuals authorized, said, I'd like you to use this, show other guys. And I would have never thought that. I would have thought, no way. You know, but number one therapy, prolonged evaluation. So anyhow, but you got to get to that point of trust with it. It's, you know, there's still the macho, you know, I ain't going to talk about it, attitude, if you will. But we're breaking those barriers down, you know, on a one-on-one situation. And it's changing lives. It's changing, you know, and hopefully it affects that veteran suicide rate that I talked about, you know. So.
Right. Well, another another good thing, another good point that, I guess I'm sure you know about it, but when you talk to let's say a Vietnam vet and a Vietnam vet, when they get together, they can relate and they'll start talking to each other. Okay, if you get a Vietnam and it's a civilian, it's not gonna work. Okay, but when Vietnam vets meet each other, let's say you and I met, and you were a Vietnam vet, or I was a Desert Storm, we'd embrace each other because we were almost like married. Okay, that's the closeness. Okay, so that's why if you get a Vietnam vet to talk to a Vietnam vet, they'll open up a lot easier than they would against somebody else.
No, you're right.
Because
the common ground. The common ground.
Yes, they were in Vietnam and they knew what they went through. Each of you went through. Okay, that's what I try to do in my book. I try to tell everything that happened to guys, so the people who really know what it was really like to be in Vietnam. You say, "Oh, you was in Vietnam." Well, what the hell? They don't know until they had boots on the ground and see what these guys went through and what they had to deal with. So
you know what?
That's the problem. Let's say go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, not to interrupt you, John, but you're right. Who could relate to something than someone that was there versus someone who's got the degree but really wasn't there? So they can't visualize what you and you as Pizza and you as John, you guys were in that situation. So no one would know it better than you guys. Yeah. I agree.
Right. It's just like I say. Let's say you had two prisoners, okay, and they didn't know each other. Again, one guy, they happened to mention somebody and said, "Oh, you were in Alcatraz?" Say, "Yeah." "What, you were there?" "Yeah, I was there." "Did you know so and so?" They'll open up a dialogue, okay, because they were in Alcatraz together. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? Right away, they have something in common. That's like what somebody. You got to find that thing that the guys have in common.
I think we should think about possibly going to another show with this, because this is a deep subject. You get into therapy and how therapists work and how John is trying to explain to us how the therapy works. So really, we'd love to have you back and discuss this even further, it'd be great.
Yeah. More than welcome, open to it.
When he reads my book,
I know. I haven't gotten it yet. I didn't get it yet today, so I'll look for it. It's probably
hopefully you get it tomorrow.
It's the classic books in the mail, John.
Hey, Pizza. When I first read,
this is what it looks like.
Pizza.
Reviewed a little bit of it and took a look and read a couple of chapters and stuff online. But yeah, I'd love to come back maybe in the turn of the new year and stuff.
Yeah,
we'd
be great. Well, I appreciate you coming on, John. Yeah. Your story was great, and I know I speak for everybody else that we'd love to have you back. I for one would definitely like to delve deeper into this issue that you're having with the therapy with the people in your group. That would be great. So
yeah, and that forum, just to give you some minimal details on it, that is open to the public. Now, most of the individuals that are going to go online, I'll go in person to the forum, if you will, as a healthcare provider and stuff. But many will attend it online because they want to see what our community is doing, and they're realizing that this isn't just take extra ginkgo biloba and no, if it is, we're saying you're going to take 4,000 milligrams of ginkgo 3 times a day for a 2-week period, then we're going to reevaluate it. It isn't walking into a nutrition place and some high school kids, you need to take this or that. No,
it sounds very it sounds like a very complete program that you're working on. So it's
very
great.
Much so.
Do you have a
and that's open to the public and can provide you the link to the next one. It's usually in the spring that we do it, if you will. But we can more than happy to get together and discuss more, if you will. And I'll kind of
you have a website in case any veterans want to contact
No, I
Do you have a
actually
website in
retired,
case any-
so I pulled it down. I'm now
okay.
retired, but
All right.
I can. What I would like to do is send a link to two things. I'll be doing fundraising again for the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim for the Navy SEAL Foundation in January. I'd like to send you that, and I'd also like to send you to the link for the foundation, because the work we do there is remarkable. It really is, and it makes a big impact. It makes a huge impact. So I'll send you that. But I will also I'll leave you with this, and it comes from an ethos and a creed and a way of life that me and men like me have chosen to pursue. Brave men have fought and died building the proud tradition and feared reputation I am bound to uphold. In the worst of conditions, the legacy of my teammates steadies my resolve, and God silently quiets, guides me in every deed. I will not fail. These are things that I have lived, in my life. It is a creed and ethos that I try to live by, attempt to live by. It's not something just thrown around, a water cooler, or just something to get drunk to. It's an ethos. It's a way of life. And if you will, that men greater than I have lived by. And I was proud and humbled to be one of those men. My service to my country, a power greater than me, God. And these are just a few of the highlights, in my life. I would have traded it for nothing. Now my service to my Lord God as a peaceful warrior, and to my family and community, guide me in every deed. And I will not fail. That is something I hope I can live up to, not just now, but in my life.
God bless you. God bless you, and God bless the work that you're doing. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was
great, John.
It was an honor and a privilege to meet you, John. A real honor and a privilege.
I want to say, I'm very, very sorry. I didn't know about your sister, man. I didn't know it. We hadn't discussed anything like that.
That's probably a whole nother topic.
Right.
That could be a third show.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk.
We could explore it.
I didn't know if you wanted to speak about it. That's why I didn't say it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So maybe next time.
Like I said, there are motivations. Like I made the right decision to go into the teams, but maybe for the indifferent, reasons. But haven't regretted a day of it. Was definitely the right thing to do.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't regret a day of being in service either.
Yeah.
Because I was fortunate to live through it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's. I guess we'll wrap it up.
I will say Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. Oh yeah, you take care.
Yep. Very nice to meet you, John. Love to have you back.
Same here, John.
I'll be talking to you, John. Let me know if you got my book. All right.
I will.
God bless everybody. Good night. Remember the last goodbye.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Say goodbye for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say hello to the sorrow, and with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time. You must say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time.